بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. In this course, I will launch in my channel on YouTube and on my page on Facebook. I want to light up about secularism, how it became a doctrine for many countries all over the world, and how it's a new way of thinking invade our culture and our world. At first, you have to know that from my vision, it came from my culture. I belong to the Middle East society, and here we're still facing secularism every day in our life. And because we are not adapted till now, we face a lot of difficulties. We face a lot of difficulties not because it is a good source for us, because if we are not adopted, that means we belong to the other people. This is how they treated us. If we are not adopted, they're treating us as a weird. They're treating us as people who belong to the other nations, to the other culture, and we should not let them enter our society. Secularism as an idea, it's a bold step in Western intellectuals, and we have to understand its source, from where it's come. Despite the fact most people believe that secularism came after French Revolution in 1789, I believe. That if we read the history carefully, we will see that it has its deep source, a deep root in Western culture. And after French Revolution, Western society created these ideas: secularism, materialism, and nationalism. And this is what shaped the Western society through the last 3 centuries. Before that, we have a Western societies which believe Christian world, which means Europe. Belong to the Christian world, and church was dominance and influence in every single moment of your life, if you belong to this era. And by the alliance between Christian church and between the rich people there, people create this kind of hatred campaign toward this Christian church, from this allies with people who oppressed other people and who make them work to them at the farms for all days, for all their lives. We have what we know as natural sciences at Western society. It was very modern. They tried to adapt it fastly after a while from the crusade. Natural sciences, if I want to prove something, I have to make an assumption. And after assumption, I have to make an experiment to prove whether it is correct or not. There are a famous story about that with Galileo Galilei. We all heard about his story. Galileo he made his own assumption about the Middle Ages. He made his own assumption about the center of our earth, and the Christian Church refused it. Deprive him from published his assumptions, and they even considered him as a hypocrite and as a pagan even. So after French revolutions, we create the secularism. You are free to make your assumption, own assumption, either if it's a silly assumption or it's a great assumption, and you are free to make experiment. And as well, it's not only in natural sciences, it is even in human sciences. And that was the strange thing it's created. The human sciences. You are able to make your own assumption here, and you are able to make your own experiment. You are able to make your own conclusion about any other experiment you have, any assumption you create, and you are able to change the rule, or you are able to change the principle. There is no principle at all in this experiment, especially in human sciences. Natural sciences, it's natural sciences. If you make assumption, make an experiment, create your own conclusion, it goes straight, it's nature. Natural sciences, technology always advances. And in humanity, in human sciences, you make assumption, you make experiment, you make your own conclusion. After you make your own conclusion, you try to enforce others to adopt your ideas. And this is what happens in secularism. In secularism, they create their own assumptions after the oppressing they have with the Christian church during Middle Ages, and we have Renaissance ages after that. They refuse all intervention from Christian churches. So they said, okay, feel free to make any assumptions, to make any experiment you want, and feel free to make any conclusion you are able to do. So after that, we have new sciences, especially sociology. Sociology greatly belonged to the Renaissance era, and psychology. All these two sciences takes its background from we are free to make an assumption, we are free to make an experiment, and we are free to make any conclusion, even if it's not a scientific conclusion. And they believe it is the right thing to do as well. And they believe you are not follow these steps, you are not belong to the modern sciences or to the modern civilization. There are something wrong with European culture. I have to mention it. So we have in European culture, we have what we call it a dark ages. And this dark ages, they believe anything before European Renaissance, it was dark, it was stupidity, belonging to the all people who live on these ages. They believe they are not scientific, they are not civilized enough. We have to change them, and this is wrong ideas. It's belong to the stereotyping we have in Western culture. And Western culture, if you don't believe me, they love dominance and influence to the other nations. Feel free to read any sources you have about the settlement, which come. We are free to conquer any other lands. We are free to make other people civilized like us. Feel free to read about France campaign in Egypt, about British campaign for India. So they all, two campaign said we have to civilize those people who belong to these nations. But Dark Ages only happen in European culture because most sciences, all sciences, only come from the Christian Church. Christian Church believe if we make our people free to learn, free to make anything, that will be a danger in our dominance and our influence. So we have to be the only source and the main source for knowledge and ideas in Western societies. So sometimes if you read history carefully, you have to admit that maybe European people was right to hate the Christian church after what it did to them. But is it right to hate it? Is it right to consider religion that religion is the bad thing to adopt? Is it right? No. We have other nations which was so religious, like Islam nations. Islam society. Over 10th century, it was dominance to the humanity and to the intellectual in the world. Over 10 centuries, we did not see any conflict between science and religion. And I know most European culture love story about Al-Hazan ibn al-Haytham. Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham. He's a physicist, an astronomer, and he created the modern optics. If you read his book carefully, read his book Al-Manazir, you will notice that how this guy believes in God, and he does not have any problem with God, unlike many Western scholars who believe God is the main source of devil in this world. Astaghfirullah al-Azim for this word. Feel free to read ideas about the confliction between science and religion. It is something American writers talk about it. We have someone like evolutions. We have some evolution ideas and how it's making assumptions, great assumptions. There are a confliction between God and sciences, which is, from our point of view, something right, and we should not adopt such this ideas. We know, and we believe that God created this world, and we are, as a human being, we have to know it by ourselves. So, Christian Church during Middle Ages or Dark Ages refused to let people free to think, and European people believe this is the Christian religion. This is the right Christian religion, which is something wrong. It is how they interpret from Christian Church, how they interpret and how they impose it to the people there. And we know about the alliance between Christian Church and between the royal families in Europe, and how they allow them to oppress the European people. So Hassan ibn Haytham, throughout his book Al-Manazir, which means optics, when he thanks in God, he admits about God, unlike Darwin and all his friends and scholars, because they belong to the two different culture. That's enough for this video. Hope you will follow my channel and my videos. See you later.